Hi. A couple of months ago I realised that I was starting to run out of storage for my images and video files, and so I needed to do something to increase the storage. It was also becoming a bit of a pain to manually keep backing up my files, and so as part of this I wanted to look at a way of streamlining and automating my backup systems. So, quick look around on the internet, and the most common approach that people adopt to this is network attached storage in the form of a redundant array of inexpensive disks. And certainly there's been a number of videos on YouTube by video and image content creators that describe the way in which they have set up a RAID array to manage their images. So I needed to decide whether or not that was a sensible way forward for me to go. So the first thing to do was to try and work out how much file space I needed to see whether a RAID array was a sensible way forward. Now, a quick look back through my files showed that I'm basically creating somewhere around 300 gigabytes of files, both in the form of images and videos per year. Building in a little bit of redundancy, pushing that up to 500 would sensibly cover most of my needs, but doubling that would take account of changes in camera, possibly increases in file size and so forth. So what came out of that was I need about 1 terabyte a year of storage. Now, the next question was, how many years storage should I be looking to obtain at this point in time? And I'm very nervous of technology moving on and changing, so I'm a bit sceptical about the suggestion of future-proofing for extended periods. So I made the decision that 4 years was sensible. Beyond 4 years, probably there will be a move from mechanical to solid-state devices, and it would be sensible to review the situation then rather than be committed to a longer period. So that gave me my baseline. I need 4 terabyte disk for storing files on my machine, a further 4 terabytes for backup in the form of a mirror, and a further 4 terabytes for storage off-site in case of major catastrophe. Having sorted out the storage requirements, it became apparent that a RAID system was probably going to be overkill for what I needed. Most of the systems I've seen described online sort of start at maybe 50 terabytes and upwards, and I've no need for that sort of storage at the moment, so it was a non-starter. So the next question was, do I need network attached storage? Now, the advantages of network attached storage, from what I can gather, really centre along whether or not you're going to look to edit your files on a number of devices, say your office computer, laptop, tablet, etc. And I don't. I only ever edit my files on my office machine. The other advantage, if you want multiple people to access your files simultaneously, and again I don't. And a further downside for network attached storage is that you are limited by your Ethernet speed, and typically at the moment domestic Ethernet is around 1 gigabit per second. Compare that with USB 3 at 5 gigabits per second, and you are going to take a significant speed hit by going for Ethernet rather than a direct USB 3 connection. So that pretty much sorted out my hardware requirements. I needed storage in the form of drives of 4 terabyte capacity that I could couple directly to my office machine via USB 3. Now, as it happened, when I switched office machines about 3 years ago, I bought a 2 terabyte external drive to act as my scratch disk. And that drive is this one here, which is a Toshiba Canvio Basics 2 terabyte drive. It plugs straight into a USB port, USB 3. It takes its power from the USB 3 port, and it's plug and play on a Windows system. It's pre-formatted NTFS. So literally you plug it in and you're good to go. 2 terabytes wouldn't be enough for me now, but they do these in a 4 terabyte, which is basically the same form factor. It's just twice as deep. The other advantage of these, besides cost and besides size and convenience, is cost. They are the cheapest drives that I've come across, and I could get the 4TB version of those drives for less than £75. So basically I bought two to set my system up. So that has solved the hardware end of my problem. I have two 4TB drives connected to my office machine via USB 3 connections. They don't need external power supplies, and they were plugged in and ready to go. What I needed now was a way of automating my backups to make sure that my files are continuously mirrored from my working disk to my backup disk, and in time could be mirrored to a third drive to be stored off-site. Now, if I'd have gone from a RAID array, the software would have formed part of that system. So it would have been built in, that would have been an advantage. But having ruled out a RAID array, what I'm looking for is some software that will enable me to do that at reasonable cost with good ease of use. And looking around led me to an open source piece of software called Free File Sync. And as the name suggests, open source, it is available at zero cost. And I downloaded Free File Sync and investigated it and found that it was ideal for my purposes. So what I'm going to do now is to describe the use of the Free File Sync software and how I have used it to enable me to automatically mirror my drives.
This is a Free File Sync webpage, and here it gives you the link to download the files. I'm talking about a Windows application, but you can also use this for Mac or Linux. In the description here, it really gives the key thing that I'm looking for. Determines the difference between a source and a target folder and transfers only the minimum amount of data needed. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a mirror to copy a source to a target drive. Now, there are tutorials here that take you through how to do this. The one I'm using here is mirror synchronization, but it's very straightforward, so we don't need to work our way through that at the moment. We'll go back to the main directory, and then we'll just run through the program. So Free File Sync's installed on my desktop, and I will invoke it. Now, what I have to do is to first of all put in create a new session, and first of all I'm going to browse my source drive, and I'm going to use a subdirectory of my photos directory for my G9 camera, and I'm going to set up the directory called RAWs21, raw files for 2021, and that's there. So that's my source, and my target is going to be the same, but instead of on drive E, it's going to be on drive F. So we go to F, Photos, G9, RAWs 2021, Select Folder. Now, what we've got here is compare, and this gives me the option of what I'm choosing to compare. And I want to compare file size and time. So it's based on the time the file was created and the size of the file. I don't want to look at file content because that will create more of a computing overhead. So that's fine, size and time. Now, synchronize, I don't want two-way. What I want is mirror. Two-way means that if I change my target, it will impact on my source, and I want to leave my source intact. So mirror. And so that is done. Let's just minimize that for a sec. What I've got here is just a little test to show you it works. I have got here on my source drive G9 RAWs21, and you can see I've got a folder 21st of September the 6th, and I've put a squirrel file picture in there. On drive F I had the same folder, but I'm going to delete that. Right, and it's deleted it. So what I want to do now is I want to mirror this drive from the source to the target. open my program back up. I've got the comparison, I've got it, it's mirrored, and all I need to do now is to hit the synchronize key, and you can see very quickly it does it. We go down now, and now on my target drive I have the same folder, and I have now got my squirrel picture. If I delete this now and rerun the program, you see it has not deleted the program, deleted the file from my main disk. But there's an easier way to do this. If I come open up the program again, you can save this configuration file as a configuration file, but you can also save it as a batch file. And I've already done that. I've saved them as a configuration file called test and a batch file called test. So we'll kill the application now. And I'm back to having a situation where I have got my squirrel picture in this folder on my target drive, but nothing in my source drive, but nothing in my target drive. But by creating a batch file, then I can do this much more simply. Just simply double click test batch, and bang, it's there. Delete it, double click, bang, it's back. If I delete it from the source drive and double click, it will take it off on my target drive. So that is a batch file to copy the files from my source to my target directory. Now, the standard way I use this is when I ingest files, having finished ingesting them, I will run a batch file like this to make sure they're instantly mirrored to my target drive. When I've then gone through and culled and edited the files, I will run that batch file again to make changes to my target drive. That way I get a complete mirrored backup. If you want this to happen automatically, then there are various automated settings you can use. And this is very much for Windows, but if we've got scheduled batch job, you'll see that the free file sync manual will actually take you through how you can use the Windows task scheduler to run that batch file either daily or at a specific time, so that the program will run in the background. You can also set it up with the Windows start file such that it will run continuously in background. I haven't done that because I don't really want the computational overheads. I've tried to minimize the number of background programs that I've got running all the time to keep my system speed as high as possible. But I probably will, in time, set a batch file to run when I'm not using the computer every day, just to make sure that I haven't missed everything. So there you have it. An open source piece of software which is free to download and use, which enables you to very simply mirror two drives such that by simply running a batch file, having deleted that drive now, if I run that batch file again, double click rather than single click, it will reinstall that folder for me. So it's as simple as that. So this is something that meets my needs, and if your rate of content creation is similar to mine, it may be something that you would wish to consider instead of going for the full cost on and complexity of a network attached RAID system. So I hope you found this useful, and if you decide to use it, I hope you find it straightforward and profitable. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.